Hello and welcome to the channel. I'm Penkin. Quick video today on some work I did for a client and how I personally go about doing it. Now with this customer, I've been working with them for about 2 years, so I have a rapport with them. I run it a little differently to how I'm going to explain, but that's because we have a level of understanding and knowledge about what each other want. But generally I would do something like this. I mainly get my clients from Instagram. People are generally pretty good at sending messages through to at least start a conversation. They'll ask something such as, how much is a logo? That's all you'll get, but at least it's a starting point and you can follow on and send them a message back. Unless you have a flat price, this is a hard question to answer on the spot. It helps if you have a generalized price position, but the questions you follow on from here will actually help you get to that point of giving them a price. I have a Word document or just notes on my phone of questions and points that I like to ask them to help me get to that pricing stage and get on to actually getting on with the work. So I'll make up a scenario of what someone might want just to make it a bit easier, and so we got an example as we go through the questions. The first sort of questions I'll ask are, what is the work required for? So example, it's a merchandise t-shirt for a DJ. If they have an Instagram page or a shop, I'll have a quick scout around that to see what sort of styles and things they do. I'll then move on to asking more about the design brief, which includes what elements they want involved, such as, I want my DJ name through the middle of the t-shirt and then a lion head roaring behind it. Now that's an okay brief. Some people would end the conversation there and crack on, but for me I'd like to have more information than that, as you might make the mistake of going and doing a realistic front-facing design when the client actually wanted a side-on view, more cartoony style, and then you've just wasted a bunch of time. The best thing I find to do is to ask for as many details in as little questions as possible. Spending too much time asking questions can make the customer feel like they're drip feeding you, and they can just get fed up and move on, or they may just end up stop responding. So the more details you can get in a short space of time, the better. The best thing really to do is to have a document either on your website or something you can email over, where these questions would be filled out by the customer instead of you having to ping messages back and forth. Then once you've got the information such as, I want a front-facing lion with the DJ name going through the middle of the mouth of the roaring lion in a fairly cartoony style, I then ask for references. If they could just spend 5 to 10 minutes looking on Google Images or Pinterest if they don't have any, say finding 3 to 5 images of either styles or images they like, that could be a massive help to you. With digital works such as t-shirt design, I don't worry too much about size, as I generally oversize, such as an A3, and then it gets moved down to around an A4 size. But it's good to ask for sizes, especially if you're working in more traditional or non-digital work, as this will affect your material costs when you go to work out the price. Getting the project deadline is also quite handy to have before you go away and do the final costs for the customer. Now if required, I'll take 30 minutes to an hour to go away, calculate the cost, see if this needs to be a priority job compared to my other jobs that I'm doing at the time. I'll work out how long it's going to take me and what's going to be involved and make a price point from there. A lot of the time I don't actually charge for sketches. The sketches are only rough anyway, and just to give the customer an idea, they don't take particularly long. I normally give myself up to an hour to do 3 sketches for them. If it takes any longer than that, that might be factored into the invoice if it's a complex job. But otherwise, I just do them for free. It's a goodwill gesture towards the customer, and it lets them know that you can achieve what they're looking for. Once they do have the sketches, this is the point I ask for the deposit if they would like to carry on with the job. You can do that however you like, asking for the full amount or half up front or whatever percentage works for you. Generally asking for half up front is the best practice. I know many others ask for the full thing up front. Some customers can be a little bit dubious about this, especially if it's your first time working together. If you're struggling to find a price for your customer, There's a website called New School, NU School. The website will help you figure out how much you should charge. They have things on there such as app design, web design, brand design, print design, and it will take you through a bunch of questions, and that can help you figure out how much you should be charging for each project that you do. Now also, when doing your invoicing, you need to let the customer know how they can pay you. I personally only use PayPal. Cash App is now available in the UK, I believe. I know a lot of American clients prefer to use that than PayPal. Or bank transfers, if you use that. I don't personally do that. I like the protection that the customer and I have with PayPal. I've not used Cash App yet, but I probably will in the future. But you need to let the customer know how they can actually pay you. Now the customer has the sketches and you've spoken about deposit, it's a good time to clarify how many revisions you're willing to do on the final piece, as the last thing you want to do is have to finish the final piece, then go back and change something and send it through, change something again, and go on and on, as that will drive both of you mad. So it's good to clarify that you're willing to do no changes, one change, 3 changes. I generally do up to around 3. If there are any small changes, then it's not so much of a big deal, but if they're going to want whole color changes, or this needs to move and be replaced with something else, then it becomes quite a tedious task. So it's good to clarify that early before you start the actual piece. Now once you've done all of that as well, we have the job, we've done the sketches, they're happy with one of the sketches, so you know where you're going. You've said you're willing to do X amount of revisions. You can now start your final piece. It's always good to update the customer with the final piece, though if you're just going to do the whole piece and then send it at the end, you can do that. I prefer to send them part of the way through, just so the customer can see the development of the work, and it's easier to change things if they spotted something they don't like whilst you're doing it, rather than right at the end when you think you're finished. Then once you have finished, the customer's seen your progression and you're asking for the final payment. Best thing to do is to always send a watermarked version of the final piece at maybe a slightly lower res, but as long as it's watermarked you should be okay. Put it in a prominent place that doesn't affect too much of the work, so they can actually get a feel for what the final piece looks like, but prominent enough that they're not just going to steal it and take it for the half price or whatever the deposit cost was. This has happened to me a couple of times before. Then once final payment has been sent, send over all your files and boom, you're done. So just to recap, get full info on the vision of the client, get any references they've got, size and other format information, find out what their deadlines are, sketch and revision clarification, get your first deposit, send updates as you're going through the final piece, finish the piece and send the watermark version, get the rest of your payment, send the final, move on to the next job. So that's the general process I run by. Hopefully that's helped some of you. If you have any questions or want to go in more depth, either message me on Instagram, throw a comment down below. You'll see with this piece, I'm pretty much finished with the first final draft. I send it over to the customer. I think there's 2 revisions I do for them after going back and forth on the edits he wants to do. They're only minor. Simple things like taking away some of the fluffiness, that was in the final one, putting the head on a tilt. Sometimes the comments you'll get may seem a little harsh, but it's just, you've got a vision, the customer's got a vision, you're working to what their vision is, so you need to match yours up as close as you can with theirs, even if you don't necessarily think it looks better all the time. If that's what they're looking for, they're the one paying, so it is what it is. You can obviously advise, but if that's what the customer wants, that's what the customer wants. Thanks for watching. Sub below, leave a comment, all that other jazz. I'll see you in the next one.